Hello all, welcome back. So today again I have come up with an amazing video series. So in this video series we are going to build 3-tier web application on a Google Cloud. So we'll be using different technical stack here. So we'll be using Python to build our application. We'll use a Python Flask, then we'll use a MySQL as our database to store a user data. So we are going to build basically one user management system where we can create user, we can delete user, and we can fetch data of the any users. Okay, so the simple 3-tier application means it will have your presentation layer in the form of web page. You have your logic build in your application, that is your application layer, and you will have one database to store your data. So this will be typical 3-tier application. So first let me show you what we are going to build. Let me show you one demo of that application which I already created, but in this video we are going to do it from scratch, from creating network in your Google Cloud, from creating your complete Python code, and then creating your compute instance and deploying your Python web application on your compute engine. So after that, in next part of the videos, we are going to containerize that application and try to build it on a serverless platform like a Cloud Run. Okay, so just stay tuned till the end and we'll see what we are going to build in this video. So let me show you one demo first. So this is simple user management system we are going to build here. So we have option here to add new users. We can also fetch the data of any users. Okay, and we can also delete the user. So first I will add some users. So let me add one user first. I'll just add one user named Virat. I'll just give the email ID. Okay, password I'll just give some random characters. Address I will just give Delhi. Okay, and phone number I will just give 1234567. Okay, and I'm just want to add some demi data and it will store in the MySQL database. Let me submit it. Okay, so this is stored data and password. It won't show exact password, it showed the hash data of that password, as it is a security issue to display any application password directly on the front end. Okay, so I am following the same logic. I will display the encoded data of that password. So now suppose this is the data we stored now. So I want to fetch data of the users from the database. I want to fetch data of, say, yeah, so we can add data, we can fetch any user's data, and we can also delete data for any user. So this is the simple user management system we are going to build using Python in this video demo. Okay, so let's see how we can build it using Python and a Google Cloud. So hello guys, so in this video we will start building our application, 3-tier application in Python. So let me just walk you through our architecture we are going to follow and the tech stack we are going to follow here. So first we'll create our Python code and the HTML files for our web page. Then we'll create one CloudSQL database. So first we'll try to test our application locally. We'll create simple Python class application and we'll run that locally, and we'll see if it can fetch data or it can add data to database from the front end, or it can delete users from the front end. So first we'll test locally. So let me go to VS Code and just walk through the code what we are going to do here. So I already created the code. I'll just walk you through the code and then we'll create our CloudSQL instance for a MySQL. Okay, so guys, this is my main file, that is app.py. So what I'm going to create here, so I'll be creating one MySQL. I will be importing MySQL connector as we are using the MySQL database, and we'll try to create one cursor here which will create table if it is not exist. So we'll be having one user table. If it is not exist in the database for very first transaction, it will create table for a first user, and you can see the ID, we are not passing any user ID from the front end, so it will be auto incremented. Okay, so this is the primary key for our user table, and it will auto increment. So for the first user it will be 1, for second user it will be 2, automatically it will incremented. Okay, so then we'll execute it. Like, it will be created on very first instance when the user is getting added. We have three different application. First is to add users. So it will just fetch the data from the front end, and it will create insert query to insert that data into the user table. So you can see the insert query here. So it will just accept the data from the HTML form. Okay, so if you see the index.html where we are putting the data in the form of the form, so it will take all the input values from the front end. So this is our form, and when it click on the submit button, it will go to the submit function here. So let's check what is the submit function. So submit function is nothing but it will just insert the data into the database based on the accepted input. Okay, then we have one fetch data, so that is nothing but the get data function, which will run the select query, and whatever the result it will display on the get data html. So let me show the get data html. So it will display on the get data html what is the result. And then again we have the delete html. So yeah, so on the delete html also it will ask to confirm if you want to delete it, and then it will delete the user. So this is basic python code, I would say. But for this configuration, first we need some details. So we need a database config, so we can directly put here, but as a best practice I just created the new file, that is database config, and I have not added this file to the github repository. So just make sure you create your own config.py in your uh, root directory. Okay, so I have this config.py. Let me show you what we have in config.py. So we'll be having our host IP for our database. So as we are going to test our application from locally, I am going to create a public database, that will be MySQL public database. So and we'll access this from our local system. So we'll be creating one user for our application, we'll be creating password, and we'll be creating one a database for our application. So these things we have to pass from the config.py. So this is specific to my database. So I'll request you to add your own config.py, and you can add your details. So how to get the details, I'll just show you. Now I'll go to a cloud console and I'll create my CloudSQL instance for it. So do not worry, I'll be sharing this complete code with you in the form of GitHub repository. Okay. So I'll just go the CloudSQL instance now, and I will create one CloudSQL instance. Let me go to the CloudSQL create instance. I want to use MySQL. Okay, so instance ID, I can give the name MySQL DB. Password I can generate, so this will be your root password. Simply click on generate. So one value will be generated, copy that value, and now I'll just add this copied value here. Okay, I'm not using the root password here, so I'll just keep this as it is. And let's go back. So I'll be using, you can use enterprise version or any version you want. Just check the pricing also here. So I'll be using the sandbox environment, so which is having the lowest price. You can see if I choose the production, the price will be 1.23 per hour, and if I choose the sandbox environment, price will be very less. Okay, so just choose the sandbox environment, as we are not going to use much database size here. And also the configuration option, so I'll be using the single zone. Okay, if you are choosing the sandbox, then definitely the minimum configuration will be used. And let's create the instance without doing much customization. So it will take a couple of minutes to create your instance. In the time, I'll just pause my video. Okay, now we can see after 5 to 7 minutes, this our database MySQL is available and ready now. So let's go back to database, and so this is our database instance. Inside this there will be multiple databases. So these are the system databases. We'll create one user database. So we'll just create one database for our application, give the name app. Let's create it, and for this database again we'll create one user. So we can create user from here. We add user account. So this is for built-in authentication. There are two types: use built-in authentication or cloud IAM. I'll be using built-in authentication, as you can use any MySQL instance and not dependent only on the CloudSQL instance. So I'll just create username as a app user and generate. So this password I will use in my config. So these all details whatever I did I will use in config. So I will be deleting the instance after this demo. So do not worry even if you see this password. Okay. So this is correct. Database appdb correct. User is correct, and the host I need to get the external IP of this instance. So I'll be using the public IP here. So I want to make it as simple in the first try. In the second attempt, we'll try to create the internal communication within the VPC. Okay. So first we'll test it locally. I have updated the IP, and let's see if can fetch data now. So let me just open the terminal and try to execute Flask application. Okay, now whatever I am given in the config.py, so this is using this configuration to connect to the MySQL database instance. Now I'll just execute Python app.py to run my Python Flask application. Okay, we have to go and directory again. 6 just, yeah. So inside this Python app.py, I will execute it. If it will able to connect to database, it will run, else it will fail here. Okay, so we will see if it connect to our database. Okay, and it failed. You can see it gave an error, so I'll explain you why it gave an error. So let me show you again. It will not connect even though it is a public instance and we have username and password. So CloudSQL has two layers of security even though it is a public instance. So you should have two things here. One, the network connectivity, and second, you will need username and password. So what network connectivity do we need? Okay, so for even though you are using the public cloud SQL instance, you need to add your IP address of your system from where you are accessing the database in authorized network. So just take an example. I am using my laptop, so I need to add my external IP. So whatever my external IP is, I need to add this in the authorized network of my Cloud SQL instance. So you are still not much comfortable with Cloud SQL, I'll request you can go through my Cloud SQL playlist. So I have explained there why we need to add authorized network, how we can add. So currently I'm here adding local setup, and we'll just adding. Let's do one thing. Anyway, we are using the username and password. I will just add all IPs here. Later we'll delete it. So on from any system, or even if I am trying from the cloud shell, I can directly connect to the database. So even though I am like added all the system, it should have username and password as well. Okay, so both the things you should have to connect to the database. First, entry in the authorized network, and second thing, username and password to connect to the database. So before uploading video, definitely I am going to delete the database instance. So there is no worry even if you note down all this username and password. Okay, so let me try it again to connect. So if there is no database connectivity, your application won't run. Now you can see it is denied for user. So why it is denied? Let's see. We are having correct credentials. Okay, so user is not yet created. Okay, so we missed to click on create. So we have to add app user. We have to generate password. We only copied password. We did not click on create in last attempt. Okay, so let me copy this password, save it, and also let me add it. Let me try to execute now. Okay, let's wait for some time. Let's try again. Okay, it is still giving error. Let me reset the password again. Change password, because this is because of this symbol is not showing properly. This password. I It is creating some characters. Let me just try to create my password. I'll just create something like password. It will create. Copy. Let's try to connect now. Yeah, now it is running. So this was because of some junk characters. It was not taking in the variable value. So let me now follow this link. Yeah, now you are on index where you can add data or you can fetch data. So let's first see if there is any data in the table. So let me try any entry for one. If there is any data. So there is no data for user ID 1 as well. Now let me add some data. So I'll just put my name. I'll just put dummy email ID. Okay. Password I will put something. Address I'll put Pune. Phone number I'll put something and I'll submit. Uh, Now it stored our data. So you can see locally it is working fine. At least it is storing the data into the database. I can see name, email, address, the password is hashed value. So now let me show how our operation is working whenever we are submitting data from this form. So let me go back to the app.py again and what operation is happening on submit. So let's first go here. So this is our form where we are filling all the values. Once the form is clicked on submit, it will go to the submit/submit path/submit path. You will see in app.py where is slash submit path. Okay, so here is slash submit path, which is going to the submit function. And what submit function is doing? So submit function getting all the details whatever we filled in the form and storing in the variable. So whatever we filled in the name is storing in the name variable, same for address, same for phone number. So the password, it is storing as a password, then it is generating the hash value of the password. And while loading the data, it is loading the hashed password. It is not storing the exact password. Okay. So I'm not doing any login validation here, but if you want to do the login validation, we have to create one more column to match the value. So I'm not doing any login validation here. I'm just storing the hashed password here. Okay. And then it is committing. So it is storing all value from the form and then inserting data into the database. So that is what happening in the insert operation. Now let me go to the fetch data. Now whenever I am doing the fetch data, you can see the get data URL is opening and it is going to get data.html. This is get data.html and here simple enter ID column where we have to put ID and then we have to fetch data. So simply let me put one now. Let me put two because we don't have any data for two. No data. Go back home. Fetch data. Let me fetch data for one. And let's fetch data for one. Yeah, and you can see I can see the data for one user ID. Now how fetch data is working? So this is going to the get data form. Where is get data in app.py? Let me show you what it is doing here. Get data. Okay, so you can see the get data. So what get data is? So it is taking the input ID from the form UI form and it's storing in the input ID variable, and this variable it is fetching the select query where user ID is equal to whatever the value stored now. So based on that it is storing value and fetching only that select statement value. So it is having only fetching data and it is displaying on the get data.html. And same thing for delete. What is happening for delete? So if you click on delete, it will execute the delete query. So it is just delete from where ID is equal to user ID. So if I click on delete, the data will get deleted. Let's try to fetch again. There won't be any data. So locally it is working completely fine. We have created Python Flask application and connected to the CloudSQL database, and we tested it locally. It's working completely fine. Now let's see how we can deploy it on Google Cloud. So we have several options in Google Cloud to deploy. If you want to deploy directly on Compute Engine, we can deploy it. If you want to create container and then deploy on the serverless, you can deploy on Cloud Run. So we'll be seeing both the options. We'll try to deploy it on Google Compute Engine first. So I'll be creating one Google Compute Engine instance. So before that I'll create one VPC network for application. So let me go back to the console and let's create one VPC network for our application. So we are using a CloudSQL public instance for now. We'll use private as well in this video series. So first we'll test with a public instance, as we had to test our application locally as well. So let me create VPC, give me the name user app VPC. Okay, so I want to use US Central 1 app subnet. I'll give name. Okay, and a region, I'm choosing US Central 1 because I created database in US Central 1, so I'll follow the same. Range, I will use the same which I am having here. Okay, and I will just use this as well, so it will allow traffic within the VPC and keep the default rule. So it will create one VPC. So if you are not clear with a Google Cloud networking basis, I will request you can refer my single video where I covered all the networking related concept. So here I am simply creating VPC and subnet, and now I'll create my compute instance in this VPC. Okay, I'll just open duplicate tab and I'll go to the compute engine page. So there will be one VM instance already present, so I'll create new VM instance and try to configure our system from the scratch, so you will understand how we are deploying our 3-tier Python application on a Google Compute Engine. Okay, so let's wait for. Okay, so the user app VPC is created. Let me go create new instance. Instance 2, let me just give the name as a web server because we are deploying our web application on this. Okay, and let's. So one thing here, I'll be setting access for each API here. Why? Because we need to access CloudSQL internally as well in the further sections of the video. So I will do it now, else we have to stop the our virtual machine again. So here what I am creating the scope of your application. So let me go back again what I have. So go to the access scope. By default it's set to default access, but I have to set either do full access or do set access for each API. Anyway it's fine. I will set full access. I will allow HTTPS traffic because our application will be either HTTP or HTTPS, so it will create firewall if I click on this checkbox. And networking, go back to networking and I will choose my network which I created now. So I don't want default, I want user app VPC, and it will fetch the subnet in the US Central 1 automatically. And let's create this application, create this VM instance, and let's wait for its creation. Let's refresh. Okay, and okay, web server is ready. Let's try to log in. So definitely it will give error because we haven't created any firewall to allow our SSH login to the VM instance. Okay, so it will error out. I will just meantime go and create firewall before it errored out. So I'll go to firewall. I'll click on add firewall. Name allow SSH. On a web, okay, web server. All instance I will choose because we have only one instance, and the range I will use my external IP, so it will allow only SSH from my IP address. So SSH port is 22. So let me show you. Meanwhile it is not able to log in. It won't log in until I create firewall. So let me close my older servers. So it won't log in until I create a firewall. So let me just go and hit on create. As soon as I create, it will log in. Okay, you can see at the backend firewall creation is progress, and once the firewall is created, it will automatically log in. Now you can see the firewall is successfully created, and our instance login screen you will see in few seconds. Okay, we are logged into the server now. So let me just update the packages first using sudo apt-get update. Okay, so let me just expand it. So we'll check whatever we required for this Python application. Okay, so we need a Python, so we'll just check Python is installed here. So by default there should be Python installed. Okay, so sometimes it shows Python version, Python command not found, but Python would be installed here. So how to check that? So you can check sudo apt search Python. Okay, and it is showing Python is available. So this is difficult to check now all the things. At least we should check the version. Okay, let's check the version. If Python, which Python 3? Okay, so we can see Python 3.9 is available. So how to check the version now? So we can check Python 3.9 hyphen version. So the direct Python command won't work, so we have to check Python 3.9. Now what we can do, we can just set alias Python is equal to Python 3.9, and now we can check Python version. Okay, now it will show. So we have Python installed now. So let's clone our Git repository. So let's check if Git available. Not found. So sudo apt install Git. It is installing it. Yes. Okay. So it will take few seconds to install Git. Meanwhile, let's go and get the repo URL to clone. So one thing to remember, at this stage it will take some time. So sometimes it will take 10 minutes as well. If you are installing something and stuck at this stage, processing triggers for mandb, it will take some time. Okay, so just wait for some time. Do not exit, do not close. Okay, so Git is installed. So let me check the Git version now. Okay, now you can see the Git version. So let me clone a repository now. So this is the public repo I have created, and let me try to clone the code. Just do git clone. So as I said, this repository won't contain your dbconfig file, so you have to add your dbconfig file. So let me show you the dbconfig file which contain all your database related configuration. Okay, so let me copy this dbconfig, and name should be the same, config.py, because we are importing this config file here. Okay, so let me create config.py and paste the content as I have the same database details. So you will add your database details. Okay, that's why I'm not included in the GitHub repository. So let me check the code now if I am having all the files. Okay, let me try to run. So I am running for first time, so definitely it will ask to install some dependencies if these are missing. So what are the dependencies we needed? So that we included in the requirement.txt. Okay, so first let me install dependencies. So let me check if it will work here. Okay, not found, because again the same thing we have to do, pip 3 or 3.9. Let me check. 3.9. Okay, not found. Let me check. Okay, let's check Python hyphen pip version. Okay, and it is saying no module named pip, so we have to install pip. How to install pip? So let me go to the Google and get pip.py file. So how to do it? So we have to download this file first. How we can download? So we have to do wget and this file. Okay, so let's see if file is there. Okay, we have this file, and what was the path? Yes, so we have to install from this path and then get pip.py, so it will install your pip module. So it is showing some error. Let's check this error. Let's try simple Python because we already set up this path. Okay, still error. Okay, it's not able to access. Let's try with sudo. Yeah, this we should try with sudo. Okay, still it is showing error. Okay, let's try again. Okay, it is working fine. So let's try to check the pip version again. Okay, so pip is installed. So let's go back and install our requirement file. So it will install all required dependencies required for our application, which are available in requirement.txt. Okay, so we needed all these libraries. It installed. Now just clear our screen. Okay, and let's try to execute Python app.py. So one thing, so if you're doing configuring one server for first time, you will face a lot of dependency error. So you have to sort it and then you have to resolve it. So for the previous error, just to if you face the similar kind of issue, so I had to install one package. So this package I installed to resolve that error. I just googled it by pausing video and then I tried few things and it worked. Okay, so you also might face few issues and you have to solve it, and not required that you will face the same error what I am facing. So if you are configuring server for first time, then you might face some dependency issues. Okay, so let me execute my Python Flask application now. Okay, so it is running. We have to check on our server as well. So our IP address for our server, let's go back. What is IP address? So this is external IP. Let's check. Not running. Let's remove this HTTP and give the port 8080. Yes, now we can see we can access our same application which we tested locally, but now one thing is remaining. We have to test if it is able to connect the database. Okay, so meanwhile you can see the logs are available here. For the first time it is 200 response, means we successfully fetched. Okay, and let's check if we can add any users. So I'll just add some user, like I'll just add some name. So I'm just a cricket fan, so I'll just add Rohit now. Rohit. Email, I'll just give Rohit at the rate 12 gmail.com. Password, I'll put some random characters. Address, I'll put Mumbai. Phone number, again I'll put our dummy number. Okay, and I'll try to add data. So this should create an entry in the database table. Yes, so it created entry because you can see the stored user data here. It means it created entry. The user ID is 3. Let me try to fetch data if fetch data is working. So I'm trying to see if it is working fine. Okay, so fetch data is working. And let me try to delete if delete operation working. And it deleted. Let me try to fetch data for 3. Yes, it is working fine. But now one question that currently this is running here. What if I close it or my terminal get closed? So let me try to access and it won't work now. Okay, so this won't work. So to make sure it should keep running even though your session terminated, you should run it using the no hub. So the background process will keep running even though you close your browser. So let me show you how we can run it. So let me go again back here. How I can run the same command what I executed, app.py. Only thing I will just use no hub and ampersand. Okay, so you can see PID created, and let me see if the application is working. It is not working. Let me see why it is not working. Let me try again. So let me try with Python 3.5 3.9. Okay, now you can see it is saying running with PID 66304. Let me check. Yes, now it is running. Let me close my sessions and then we'll see if it is still working. Now I am logged out from all sessions and our application is still working. I can add data. So let me add some data. Yes. Use the same data I can see here. Submit. And yeah, you can see it is working completely fine. You means you deployed this application on Google Compute Engine and it is working completely fine. Hope you have understood this, how we deployed our application in Google Compute Engine and kept it running. Okay, so I should use, so you directly go here, it won't work, so you have to add port also because our application is running on the port, and second is we are running HTTP, so HTTP will work with port. Yeah, so we have to add port as well because we are running it on 8080 port, which is a default HTTP port. So you can try this out. Now in next video we will try to containerize it and try to deploy on Cloud Run server. Okay, so thank you for watching this video and let me know if you face any issue in the comment section.